Chapter 11. The Tramp Turns Up Again. It was 7 o'clock when the three of them rode up Pip's drive. Bets was getting worried, because her bedtime was coming very near, and she couldn't bear to think that she would have to go before she heard the news that Larry, Daisy, and Pip might be bringing. She jumped for joy when she heard their bicycle bells jangling as they rode at top speed up the drive. It was such a lovely evening that she, Fatty, and Buster were still in the garden. Fatty had examined his bruises again, and was pleased to see that they were now a marvellous red-purple. Although they hurt him, he couldn't help being very proud of them. "What news? What news?" yelled Bets, as the three travellers returned. "Plenty!" cried Larry. "Half a tick! Let's put our bikes away." Soon all five and Buster were sitting in the summer house talking. Fatty's eyes nearly dropped out of his head when he heard how Larry had dragged the letter out of his pocket and dropped it by accident at Horace Peeks' feet. "But Clear-off's on the trail all right," said Pip. "We met him as we were going home. Larry knocked him off his bike going round the corner. Clear-off must be brighter than we think. He's a little way behind us, that's all." "Well, we'd better get on Mr. Smellie's track as soon as possible tomorrow," said Fatty. "Bets and I have got his address." "Good for you," said Larry. "Where does he live?" "It was in the telephone book," said Bets. "It was very easy to find, because there was only one Mr. Smellie. He lives at Willow Dean, Jeffreys Lane." "Why, that's just at the back of our garden," said Larry in surprise. "Isn't it, Daisy? Willow Dean backs on to half our garden. I never knew who lived there, because we've never once seen anyone in the garden except an old woman." "That would be Miss Miggle, the housekeeper," said Fatty. "How do you know?" asked Daisy in surprise. "Oh, Bets and I have been very good find-outers today," said Fatty with a grin. "We asked your gardener where Willow Dean was, and he knew it, because his brother works there, and he told us about Miss Miggle and how difficult she finds it to keep old Mr. Smellie clean and make him have his meals and remember to put his mac on when it rains and so on." "What's the matter with him, then?" said Larry. "He's a somethingologist," said Bets. "He studies old papers and documents, and knows more about them than anyone else. He doesn't care about anything but old writings. The gardener says he's got some very, very valuable ones himself." "Well, as he conveniently lives so near us, perhaps Larry and I could interview him tomorrow," said Daisy, very much looking forward to a bit more find-outing, as Bets kept calling it. "I think we're getting rather good at interviewing. I bet we're better than old Clear-off. Any suspect would know at once that Mr. Goon was after him and would be careful what he said. But people talk to children without thinking anything about it." Larry got his notes out from behind the loose board in the summer house. "We must add a bit to them," he said, and began to write. Pip got out the matchbox and opened it. He wanted to see if the bit of grey flannel was at all like the grey coat that Horace Peeks had worn. It did look rather like it. "Still, Larry couldn't see any torn bit," said Pip. "And I had a good look at his trousers too, but I couldn't see any tear in them." The children stared at the grey flannel. Pip put it back into the box. He unfolded Fatty's beautiful drawing of the footprints, and grinned as he remembered the tail, ears, and hands that he and Larry had so solemnly talked about when they first looked at the footprints in the drawing. "You know, it's not half a bad drawing," said Pip. Fatty brightened up very much, but he was wise enough not to say a word this time. "I shall learn these criss-cross markings by heart, so that if ever I come across them at any time, I shall know them at once." "I'll learn them too," said Bets, and she stared seriously at the drawing. She felt quite certain that if ever she spotted a footprint anywhere in the mud with those special markings, she would know them immediately. "I finished my notes," said Larry. "I can't say that our clues have helped us at all. We must really find out if Mr. Peeks wears rubber-soled shoes, and we mustn't forget to look at Mr. Smellie's either." "But they may not be wearing them," objected Fatty. "They might have them in the cupboard or in their bedroom." "Perhaps we could peep into Mr. Smellie's boot cupboard," said Larry, who hadn't the faintest idea how he would set about doing such a thing. "Listen, there are 4 suspects. One was Mrs. Minns, but as she had rheumatism all the evening of the fire and was stuck in her chair, according to her sister, she couldn't have started the fire. So that leaves 3 suspects. The tramp was another suspect, but as he does not wear rubber-soled shoes or a grey coat, and did not get away quickly as we might have expected him to, we can practically rule him out too. So that leaves 2 suspects. "I think it was Horace Peeks," said Pip. "Why shouldn't he tell us where he was on the evening of the fire? That's very suspicious." "Well, if Mr. Smellie can tell us where he was, that will only leave Horace Peeks," said Larry. "Then we will really pay all our attention to him, find out what his shoes are like, and if he has a grey coat indoors with the tear, and what he was doing on that evening and everything." "Then what do we do?" asked Bets. "Go and tell the police?" "What? Tell old Clear-Off and have him taking all the credit and praise to himself?" cried Larry. "I should think not. We ought to go to the Inspector of Police himself, Inspector Jenks. He's head of all the police in this district. Daddy knows him quite well. He's a very, very clever man, and he lives in the next town." "I should be frightened of him," said Bets. "I'm even a bit frightened of Clear-Off." "Pooh! Frightened of that old stick-in-the-mud with his froggy eyes?" said Fatty. "You want to be like Larry, sail down a hill on your bike and knock him off, crash, round the corner." Everyone laughed. Then they were called for dinner, and the 5 got up, with Buster running round their legs. Fatty said good night and went to have dinner with his father and mother at the hotel. Larry and Daisy got their bicycles and rode home. Pip went into supper, and Bets went off to bed. Buster went with Fatty. "Tomorrow that old tramp will come to get the boots Mummy has looked out for him," said Pip to Bets. "We'll ask him a few questions." "What questions?" asked Bets. "We'll ask him straight out if he saw Horace Peeks in the ditch hiding," said Pip. "If he says yes, that will be a great help to us." None of the children slept very well that night, for they were all excited over the happenings of the day. Bets dreamt of Clear-Off and woke with a squeal, dreaming that he was putting her in prison for starting the fire. Fatty slept badly because of his bruises. It didn't matter how he lay, he seemed to lie on 2 or 3. It had been arranged that the next day Pip and Bets and Fatty should stay in their garden on the lookout for the tramp. Pip should question him carefully. Larry had told him what to ask. "Have the boots out so that he can see them and want them badly," said Larry. "But don't let him have them till he's answered your questions. No answers, no boots. See?" So the next day, Fatty and Buster joined Pip and Bets, and the 4 of them waited for the tramp to turn up. The tramp did turn up. He slipped slyly in at the back gate, looking all round and about as if he thought someone was after him. He still had on the terrible old shoes with toes sticking out of the upper parts. Pip saw him and gave a low call. "Hello! Come over here!" The tramp looked over to where Pip was standing. "You're not setting that bobby after me?" he asked. "Of course not," said Pip impatiently. "We don't like him any more than you do." "Got the boots?" asked the tramp. Pip nodded. The old fellow shambled over to him, and Pip took him to the summer house. There was a small wooden table there, and the boots were on it. The tramp's eyes gleamed when he saw them. "Good boots," he said. "They'll fit me proper." "Wait a minute," said Pip, as the tramp put out his hand to take them. "Wait a minute. We want you to answer a few questions first, please." The tramp stared at him and looked sulky. "I'm not going to be mixed up in no trouble," he said. "Of course not," said Pip. "We shan't split on you. What you tell us we shall keep to ourselves." "What do you want to know?" asked the tramp. "Did you see anyone hiding in Mr. Hicks's garden on the evening of the fire?" asked Fatty. "Yes," said the tramp. "I saw someone in the bushes." Bets, Pip and Fatty felt quite breathless. "Did you really see them?" asked Pip. "Course I see them," said the tramp. "I see plenty of people in the garden that evening, so I did." "Where were you?" asked Bets curiously. "That's none of your business," said the tramp roughly. "I wasn't doing no harm." "Probably watching the hen house, waiting for a chance of an egg or two, even though old Hiccup had chased him away," thought Pip, quite correctly. They all stared at the tramp, and he stared back. "Was the person who was hiding in the bushes a young man with a lock of hair falling over his forehead?" asked Pip, describing Horace Peeks. "Did he have sort of bulgy eyes?" "Don't know about his eyes," said the tramp, "but he had a lock of hair all right. He was whispering to someone, but I couldn't see who." This was news. Horace Peeks hiding in the bushes with somebody else? Were there two people concerned in the crime, then? It was a puzzle. Could Horace Peeks and Mr. Smellie have planned the fire together? The children didn't know what to think. "Look here," began Pip, but the tramp had had enough. "You gimme them boots," he said, and he stretched out his hand for them. "I'm not saying no more. I'm myself into trouble if I don't look out. I don't want to be mixed up in anything, I don't. I'm a very honest fellow." He took the boots and put them on. He would not say a word more. "He seems to have gone dumb," said Pip. They watched the tramp walk away in his new boots, which were a little too big for him, but otherwise very comfortable. "Well, the mystery is getting deeper," said Fatty. "Now we seem to have two people hiding in the garden instead of one. There's no doubt one was dear Horace, but who was the other? Perhaps Larry and Daisy will have some news for us when they come." Buster had growled nearly all the time the tramp had been in the summer house. Fatty had had to hold him tight, or he would have flown at the dirty old fellow. Now he suddenly began to bark joyously. "It's Larry and Daisy," said Bets. "Oh, good! I wonder if they've got any news."